Hey everybody, welcome. How we doing? I just teleported. Welcome everybody. My name is Martin Martinez. My friends call me Martin, so you should too. And we can't wait to tell you everything about what's been going on and also introduce you to 5 new founders that have graduated from the 5th cohort of the Austin Founder Institute chapter. So I'm the managing director. We've been working on this since 2017, and since then have expanded into Houston, Texas, and have been helping entrepreneurs across the state launch enduring businesses, and to date have launched over 60 companies around the state. And tonight, you're going to meet our 5 newest. Before we do all that, we're going to get into some housekeeping. So we're going to talk a little bit about what to expect tonight. We're going to get into some expectations that we hope that y'all can do, and then get through all of this fun stuff. We have some really great guests that are going to be opening up the evening with some really special remarks. We're introducing a new director from our Houston cohort, and then rounding it out with an amazing talk from a very close friend of the FI program, the managing partner over at Sputnik, Oksana Melisheva. So before I get into the breakouts and everything else going to happen after the pitches, let's do some housekeeping, y'all. Let's do some housekeeping. We're going to go back to school. Okay, we're going to go back to school. So if you have and you can, please turn your camera on. There are many familiar names, very familiar, a lot of familiar faces in this space. And we want to see you. I mean, we've done 5 of these events just for Austin. This is the 5th one, obviously. And I got to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, this is weird. It's really weird. I know you know it's weird. But for us to really kind of see and interact with you, because we want you to interact with us. We definitely do. Use that chat box. Have your camera on. Stay on mute towards the end. We'll have everybody open up their mics for the breakouts. Again, we'll talk about that once we get done with the pitches. I don't want to overload you too much with information. But we're using Zoom because I think at this point, all of us have used Zoom. Everyone's a little familiar with all of the fun little doohickeys and doodads that make this interactive enough. So let's play with that right now. I can see a whole swath of you. I'm in gallery mode right now. You can fixate on my goofy mug the whole time, but if you really want to see everybody else, switch over to gallery view on the top right, and let's experiment. Let's do some exercises. Stretch out your clap hand, stretch out your thumbs. Let's do that. Let's do that. Come on, I want to see everybody do it. I know y'all are there. Y'all have mouses. Y'all can click. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Riley. Thank you, Dana, Jess. Rashawn, awesome. This is what I want to see. I want to see action, you know, like again, we usually clap, we can't clap. We want to see that. Use your emojis to the best of your abilities, ladies and gentlemen. And also take advantage of that chat box. This is where a lot of the action is going to be on, a lot of the chatter. So please do that. Slide into people's DMs if you haven't seen them anymore. Just be respectful, be nice, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Use that for the interactions. If you have yet to do it, and if you have a funky name like me, put it down here, right there at the bottom. You can rename yourself. Play with those 3 dots in the participant section. Let us know who you are, where you're coming from. Let's do that right now too. Let us know in the chat box what part of the state. We have people from Houston, we have people from Dallas, we have people from San Antonio, and of course, Austin, Texas. Let us know where y'all are coming from, because this is FI Texas. It's not just about any other city. It's about this great state. And thank you for being a part of it. Again, we'll wait towards after the main pitches this evening before we talk about what the breakouts are going to go. But I encourage you to grab a beverage, maybe 2, but not too many too soon. So that's going to be the festivities for tonight. And I'm looking forward to that. So before, and again, as a quick reminder, make sure we're all muted. I got you, Shady. Don't worry. And we'll move in, again, back into that agenda. Okay? So if you're still following me, play with those emojis. Give me some thumbs up or some claps, just so I know. I can't hear you. I can't hear you, ladies and gentlemen. It's the only way it's going to go. So I'm going to say a few things, but before we do that, I'm going to welcome you to my home studio located in my bedroom, as most of you are familiar with at this point. And we're going to get into just some quick things because if you've been to one of these events before, and again, if you are noticing, yeah, that is an FI leaf, a giant one with a cowboy hat, very Texan. Thank you, Riley, at Accelerate 3D, and everybody there for making it. I'm going to show off a couple slides, but then I'm done. And then we're going to get into some thoughtful discussion, insightful discussion. But I hope for whatever it is you're working on right now. I see we have tons of grads. We have some new faces here. If you're with us for the first time, let us know in the chat box. We want to meet you. We hope you stick around towards the end and maybe hang out with us for after hours as well. So looks like we got a quorum, ladies and gentlemen. I am going to go and share with you really quickly a little presentation, just a few slides. So to do all of this, of course, takes some very generous sponsors that have been with us since the beginning. And I want to thank them first and foremost because they have been with us throughout this whole weird experiment that we've been doing for the last few months. So thank you to our legal partner, Joe Daniels over at McCarter English, and thank you to Krishna Vatapalli, who's our technical partner over at Imaginovate. Without their support and continued support throughout the rest of this program, we don't know if we'd be here right now. So thank you all for that sponsorship and support. We also have some new partners that I'm excited about introducing for the first time. Maybe some of you are familiar with the organization Hello Alice. Hello Alice has come on to really help bring the FI mission to the forefront. We've worked on a national partnership with them as well as a more focused Texas one. So be on the lookout for more opportunities. Get involved with that organization as well as all of the things that they're doing to help founders of all kinds, all races, all backgrounds to navigate these uncertain times. I also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Decent. Decent is a freelance insurance platform giving you rates that you would normally get at a Fortune 500 company. It's great if you're a solo founder or working as a freelance employee on a variety of projects. And right now, healthcare is a big thing. Go check them out. Again, we've always had partners, South by Southwest, Galvanize, APM. Galvanize, we love y'all to death. Y'all have been our backbone. And we wouldn't be able to do any of this were it not for you as our first partner to start this all off. It's a shame we haven't had a chance to spend time with you all the last few months, but you're still with us in our hearts. We hope you're here with us tonight. Please let us know in the comments. And of course, our dear friends over at South by Southwest. Very tumultuous March, as everybody who's familiar with that conference festival can agree. But they also have been with us for a very long time and has helped a lot of our founders get the recognition that they're striving for at such a pivotal and influential conference and festival. So outside of all those logos, it takes a village, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all know that. For many of our mentors in this room, thank you. And I want to recognize all of you. There's a whole bunch of you. Every single face that you see on this slide has spoken at an event this year for the program, has mentored, has spent a Tuesday evening, just like you're doing that with us right now, to support these founders. They've taken time out of their day, outside of Tuesdays, to mentor through office hours, to give guidance. Maybe some of them are becoming advisors to the current founders today, and maybe some of our graduates that are with us too to support these new founders. Maybe they're working with you too. There's so many here that I wish I could really recognize every single one of you, but I'd be here all night saying thank you, thank you, thank you. So thank you right now. But there are a couple. There's a few that I do want to recognize who came to nearly every session. We spent so much time with our founders, day in, week out. And it starts with you, Mike Breck. Mike, I see you. Coach, every single founder that has gone through the Austin program knows how well Coach can tell them how to pitch, teach them how to pitch. I really hope that we keep you, Mike, to just expand this mission throughout the state, because I know the Houston chapter would really love that expertise. And I think it's going to be very apparent in the skills of their pitches that you're going to hear tonight. And all of that can't be done without Mike Breck. So thank you, Mike. Thank you. I also want to give a shout out to Riley Knox, who's here. Riley's basically our graduate alumni in residence, loves showing up. He's always been there. He even got a one wheel so we could go to the actual sessions that we're not having in person. So that's just sitting probably next to him on the couch. But thank you, Riley. You've been a big support to all of our founders in this program, and we're really lucky to have you with us as well. Last but not least, Shlomi Porgetz. I don't know if you're there. There you are, Shlomi. I see you. You're floating behind in front of the clouds in San Francisco. Jealous. Shlomi's also kind of a journeyman mentor from Johannesburg all the way to here in Texas. has lent a whole bunch of support to these founders as well. Just want to recognize those three. Again, I want to say thank you to all our mentors who have put this together and has made these founders what you see today. So thank you, mentors. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But of course, I can't do any of this. Those mentors wouldn't be anywhere. They wouldn't deal with me were it not for my directors. Lisa, Harold, Paul, thank you. Harold's our newest addition to the Austin team. And quite honestly, I don't know what we were doing before you even got here. You've been a resounding, refreshing perspective, much needed perspective as a graduate as well of this program. Thank you to all three of you. And of course, our mascot, Potato. Everybody sees Potato there. Potato's a little bit bigger, a little bit barkier these days. But Potato's certainly been in the background. And I have no doubt you'll probably hear her again at some point if Elisa's mic is on. So thank you to all our directors. You're going to hear from them a little bit later. You're going to hear from them a little bit later. So I won't spend a little too much time on that. Again, I almost cry most of the time when I start thanking everybody at this one. So I'm just going to spare you all the waterworks. This was a weird cohort. I'm just going to say that. I think for many of our colleagues, people that are in the ecosystem, people that mentor for other organizations, this has been odd. And it's been tough. We started this program on April 7th, not a week and a half after the big lockdown that rushed the country. And we started with 24 founders. You see a few of them here. I think there's actually some in the audience, and as well as you'll meet more of them as well. Took a big, crazy little high photo. We'll do probably one of those towards the end of it as well, because there's a lot more of you in this room than we've ever had at any of these Zoom rooms to date. So thank you all for joining us. But it's been odd. It's tough for a founder at this point to be able to build a company, reach new people, do the customer discovery. And the 5 that you've met tonight have come up to the expectation. They've lived to that expectation of doing the work that is so demanding of the Founder Institute. It takes a lot of work. Started with about 24 on day 1, only 5 remain. That's by design. And I'm really proud of the work that they've been doing, the adversity that they've had to overcome. And at this halfway point of what seems like the longest decade already, just 6 months into 2020, ladies and gentlemen, they spent the majority of that time building a company. It's possible. If anything, it's necessary. There's so much uncertainty out in the world right now. We don't know where our careers are going. Might as well try and tackle that idea that's been eating at you. There's great unrest amongst society. Things that have been bubbling to the surface for generations are finally seeing some kind of change. And that's necessary. We need to continue to push forward. We need to continue to build. Building the future starts now, ladies and gentlemen. It starts with these 5 founders, and there's a whole lot more work to go. So I'm going to say just thank you right now to that, and let's get into the rest of the evening, okay? I appreciate everybody coming out, and let's get into our programming for this evening. So are y'all still with me, ladies and gentlemen? Throw me just some thumbs ups, throw me some claps, do some shout outs in the chat box. I want to see it. I got to be honest with you, it's really quiet in my studio bedroom. So I want to see that tactile visual activity from all of you. It's important, okay? It's important. We got people from San Antonio. I'm just looking at the chat box now. Houston, Dallas. Oh, so great. This is the Texas community at large, okay? So let's get into the programming for the evening, ladies and gentlemen. How about that? I am thrilled. I'm honored. I've just gotten to know this gentleman over the last few weeks, month, a little bit more, as he's been brought into the FI Houston community. Before I introduce him, I want to acknowledge somebody who I'm not sure is here, Mr. Neil Murphy. Neil has been one of our biggest mentors and champions of the program since we started back in 2017. Neil not only was one of our most esteemed and high-ranking mentors of the FI program, he also helped us launch that chapter in Houston. After 2 very successful cohorts, Neil, who's also a serial entrepreneur, who's launched more companies than I have years, not to date myself too much, but Neil is now pursuing the next step in his entrepreneurial journey. That said, he's unable to continue to commit as much time as I know this role demands. And And I couldn't be more excited for Neil's journey. So if Neil, if you are with us, we miss you, we love you, we hope we can see you again. And we're wishing you all the best as you build the next big company that we know you can do. So in his stead, we have an amazing individual who I just can't wait to get to know even more as we start the FI program in Houston. Applications are live today for cohort 3. I'll tell you a little bit more about that if you are in the Houston area. But ladies and gentlemen, please give a bunch of emoji claps and thumbs ups to our newest local Houston director, Mr. Wilby Afori.
That is, I hope that I can live up to only maybe half of the level and the bar that you've just set just now. That the energy is absolutely fantastic. So I greatly appreciate it. And good evening, everybody. As Martin said, my name is Wobi, and I am the newest FI director in Houston, as well as a middle-aged Jedi just trying to find his way in the world. Want to give a shout out to my other HTX leadership team, James, Natasha, and Tabby. I believe Tabby is actually on, and James is actually on a road trip driving his parents up to the Northeast. Natasha is actually in another meeting right now, but I want to give a shout out to our team, as well as a big thanks to Martine and to Neil for giving me this opportunity. So when I am not crime fighting for FI and doing other nefarious things, I'm actually a principal with a boutique advisory firm called 360 Approach, in which we help business leaders see around corners, think things through, and make wise decisions to get stuff done. So today, Martine asked me to come and share a few things. And so I'm going to share just a few thoughts that I have. I don't have slides, just a few thoughts and a few stories. Let's call them musings of a madman. And hopefully that'll just set the tone for what I think we're moving into and what we're talking about here. There's a lot of stuff going on, as Martine was talking about. And one of the things he wanted me to talk about, he wanted us to address is, well, how do we deal with this? I mean, how do we respond to all the stuff going on? So let me share a few things, a few thoughts that I have about that. Occasionally, you're going to see me just looking down at some notes because I just want to make sure that I'm touching on everything. So first off, I want to give my sincere congrats to this graduating cohort, to Don Ballman of Open Innovations, Joseph Bell of MetaSense VR, Oleg Storkin of Gold Profit, Rayshawn Brown of College Emojis, and Tracy Ambrico of Barn Hero. Well done, very well done. By hanging in there and completing the program, you 5 have taken your first steps into a much larger world, the world of entrepreneurship. Now let's talk about the world as we know it and as we see it and as we experience it right now. Right now, based on, I would say, perception and early reporting, it would seem that the world may not be spinning, at least in the right direction anymore. But I want to assure you, it still is. It still is spinning, and it still is spinning at about the same speed that it was spinning in yesterday, or March 12th, or January 1st, or it will be probably on July 1st or August 1st, should we all still be here. But despite that, we're still experiencing something off. We all feel it. We all see it. Instead of just the world spinning, we feel like we're tumbling through space, out of control. And there is a term for this. It is an acronym, actually, that I first heard it as taught in the Army War College. That acronym is VUCA, V-U-C-A. And VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Is that a good description of the times we're in. And in fact, Wobbe's definition of VUCA, in fact, takes the C, complex or complexity, and says that it can devolve to complication, if not chaos. And so that is very much so the environment, if you will. It's our situational analysis. And yet, this is a brilliant time of opportunity. In fact, this is the time where entrepreneurs are best positioned to provide a leadership response to VUCA by a belief, by something different, by going in a different direction than where all the rest of the world seems to be going and seems to be headed, because that's what we do as entrepreneurs. Because as entrepreneurs, I believe that what defines you as an entrepreneur is not a career choice, it's a lifestyle. It's to be more opportunity-centric than risk-averse. And so here is what I believe is the entrepreneur's response to VUCA. It's also the acronym VUCA, VUCA. And that is to lead with vision, understanding, courage, and adaptability. It's with that kind of belief that I make a statement like this, that right now, this time to launch a business now in the fire and fog of 2020 is an opportunity of a lifetime. You see, because you don't really know yourself or anybody else or your business or whatever you're doing until you've been squeezed. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the great squeeze. It's on. And this is what I actually dub and call the great reset. Everything is being reset. And so for those who have the vision to be able to see opportunity on the backside of every challenge, you'll be the ones to surf this in and help us rebuild into a much better and brighter future in every way, shape, and form. Let me share with you a couple of things that I've encountered and a few things that have helped me kind of come to this understanding. This is actually my third global crisis. My first global crisis was 9/11. And let me just share your story with that. So September 11th, 2001, I got married on September 7th, 2001. I was in New York on September 10th, 2001. My stepfather was not able to, we were living in Los Angeles, my now bride and I, and my stepfather was not able to come to our wedding. He was living in New York, which is actually where I'm originally from. So we decided to go to him. And so we flew on out on the 9th and we stayed there until the 10th. And then we were going to head out for a honeymoon in Italy. Nice, huh? And so we went to the airport, to Newark Airport, and our flight was delayed. And then it was delayed for a second time, delayed for a third time. And we wound up not leaving Newark Airport until around 10:30 or so p.m. on September the 10th. Now, for those of you, familiar with history, it was only about 12 hours or so from there that the planes took off and ran into the World Trade Center, which I had just been looking out the window there through the terminal and seeing, not really paying much attention, because as a New Yorker, it's just you see the Twin Towers, you always expect the Twin Towers to be there. When I got back, of course, things were quite different. The world was quite different. And there were a lot of things being said at that time that actually you might think are somewhat familiar now. So at that time, we in America anyway, faced what we, at least in that generation, perceived as a new threat. Now, actually, it wasn't entirely new. A lot of us thought this is the first time that America has ever been attacked. Actually, it's not true. Pearl Harbor was the first time that America had been attacked from a foreign power. But again, we were not part of that generation. We didn't remember what it felt like to deal with VUCA at that time. But now we were in our own version, and this was just a whole different thing. And so people had a lot of fear. People reacted, if not overreacted, and a lot of people prognosticated new normals. So people prognosticated that a new normal would be that people would flee from urban centers because they were too much of a high value target for terrorists, that nobody would ever work or live in high-rise buildings anymore, that malls were going to collapse because, again, there were too many people there and too attractive a target for terrorists, and that we would not be safe ever until Osama bin Laden was dead. Now, what's interesting about that is that although that was what was the feeling, that was what was the belief, that was what was prognosticated, none of those things actually played out. In the years afterward, after some time, urban reurbanization, people moving in from the suburbs and exurbs to urban areas, was on the rise. High-rise buildings continue to be built. Yes, malls had a little bit of trouble, but not because of threats of terrorism. And people learned how to manage the risk while Osama bin Laden was still alive for several more years. This is very much so, to me, akin to where we are now, in where we have to have the vision and the understanding to know that everything we're seeing that's moving around, we have to have the courage to also say, you know, but we have the ability to handle it. We are remarkably adaptable, remarkably resilient, remarkably creative. You know, in terms of this pandemic, for example, I don't think that there's a better time in history to be alive to face a pandemic. With the sorts of technologies and innovations that we have, the resources that we have at our disposal, I believe that we will get a handle of this thing sooner or later. Now, it's going to take time, and you're going to have to go through it. We're going to have to endure some stuff. But in the end, I believe, just like with 9/11, we'll come out better. Now, after 9/11, you know, still here, 9/11 was my first global crisis. And at that time, I was making a decision to go into the music business and was going to consult for a little while. I actually was consulting. All my consulting business dried up, which, by the way, did this time around too. I pivoted, I adapted, and I survived. And in that particular case, I did pivot actually to accelerate my move into the music business. Not a very good business to go into. But guess what I also did? I went and decided I'm going to get into the mortgage business. Now, as I got in the mortgage business, this was 2003. So from 2003 through 2007, I was in the mortgage business. This was in Southern California, where things were hot. Some of you may know where this is going, because this leads us to my second global crisis in my career, the Great Recession, which started with the mortgage meltdown, which in Southern California, we were at the center of it all. We were at ground zero. Once again, here we are with a VUCA situation. Now, I happened to get out of that business just before everything melted down. My wife and I decided to move from California to Texas. Why did we do it? Because they talk funny over here. They say things that actually make me laugh. Things like, you know, it's raining harder than a cow pissing on flat rock out here. I like it. And so we said, man, you know what? I want to go out there, because, you know, these guys, these Texans, they're not just Southerners. These guys are the New Yorkers of the South. I'm interested. I'm in. So we came on out here to Texas. After a little bit, actually a friend and a former client had recruited me and called me up, said, hey, Wobie, what are you doing? I said, well, I just got out of this music thing and I'm looking for my next opportunity. He says, great, come on over, let's barbecue. That's what they do out here. He was from Southern California too. We came over, we barbecued, and he said, listen, I'm building this company where we're gonna be buying, building, and operating airports around the world. Come and help me build it. And at first, I said, what you talking about, Willis? And because that really took me completely off guard. But eventually, my wife convinced me, you should try this out. So we said, okay, we're going to do that. And let's go and build this company that buys, builds, and operates airports around the world. Okay, that's 2007. 2008, like I said, everything starts to melt down, and all of a sudden, the world is broke. Now, just as a hint, airports are not cheap. And so we were in the middle of trying to close a deal that we thought would take 3 months. It wound up taking 15 months. We spent 5 times the amount that we had budgeted in the pursuit. And we were weeks away from closing when everything seemed to collapse. 2 out of the 3 funding sources that we had disappeared. And it seemed like, man, this is all going to go to pot. But we persevered. We hung in there. We figured out some stuff. And eventually we were able to close the deal. But not only did we close the deal, but because of the situation, we were actually able to reprice the deal and get it at 60 cents on the dollar. See, there was opportunity there so long as we were willing to persevere. I'm going to give you another little quick top tip. Wovey's definition of luck. I think that luck does come into things, but I have a special definition of luck, and luck is the intersection of opportunity, preparedness, and perseverance. We were prepared. We had an opportunity presented to us, but we had to persevere. For you graduates and anybody else on the call today, that's the same for you. Be prepared. Do everything in your power to be prepared to face what's coming before you. But there's a lot that's unknown. So in that sense, be ready to persevere. Finally, now we're in my 3rd global crisis. I want to say that with each of the 2, I came out better on the other side. And I'm glad to say actually that at least as of the beginning of this talk, I'm still married to that same lady that I married in 2001 on September 7th. So I guess things are okay. And I am hopeful that things are going to not only be okay, but things are actually going to be better. So let me give you a few closing thoughts. I don't know for sure, and I don't think anybody knows for sure how all this is going to turn out. But one thing I do know is that based on those other 2 existential threats, near extinction events that I went through, I've come through with a certain confidence and belief that so long as I persevere and continue to have a vision of what my future might look like, what our future together might look like as entrepreneurs, that we're going to get there. And like I said, right now, this is the great reset. Everything is reset. If you were looking crazy as an entrepreneur for leaving a steady employment, you're not looking crazy anymore, as we have had, what, nearly 30 million, excuse me, thousand. Let's put another 3 zeros in that. Million people on the unemployment rolls. The risk profile has bent toward entrepreneurship. And it's the entrepreneurs, as it has been in the past and as it will be today, who are going to rebuild and rebuild better. This is the great reset. And we are entrepreneurs. And this is our time. So thank you very much for listening to me waffle on a little bit. I just want to, again, congratulate the graduates tonight and wish everybody well and to prosper and to stay healthy, stay hopeful, and above all, stay hungry.
I'm muted, so at least there'd be 1 clap. Thank you, Wobie. Wow. Wow. You really undersold that. I don't think you bored anybody on that. I think that's exactly what this room needed. Again, we couldn't be more grateful to have you in the FI team now. and helping us build the future. So we're looking forward to more to come, not just in Houston, but around this great state. Looks like we're making pretty good on time, ladies and gentlemen. If you're still with us, drop some feedback in the chat box. Give me 1 or 2 emojis, the thumbs up or the claps. You know, that's what I want to see. That's how I know you're still engaged. If you're just joining us, welcome. If you're here for the Founder Institute Cohort 5 graduation, you are in the right place. I'm Martin Martinez. If you can, get that camera on. We're going to get to know everybody a little bit later. But before we do that, I am so excited to introduce our next speaker. As many of you know, the team over at Sputnik ATX is probably one of the kindest, most insightful and brilliant venture capital backed accelerators in Austin. And they came into town around the same time as FI did. And since then, we've been very fond of everybody that's behind the scenes that supports those founders as they get to the next level. And obviously, we couldn't be more thrilled to have this speaker also share her perspective as to what's going on in the world and how, as a company builder, as many of you, graduates, alumni, aspiring founders, friends and family, should be thinking about. Because as will be said, we are in some strange times, but the opportunity to do something great couldn't be more apparent. So with that said, it's my honor to introduce friend and an amazing all-around human being, managing partner and CEO of Sputnik ATX, Ms. Oksana Alsheva.
Martin, thank you so much for this kind introduction. And it's such an honor to be here. And let me start by, just as Martin mentioned, expressing my sincere appreciation to FI, because when we first opened the doors and we're just trying to explore Austin startup environment here, we had a very clear vision of what we're trying to build, but just in the nascency, and very few people have believed and offered their hand, and FI certainly had been there, and for that, to Paul and Martin, I will be forever grateful. And since that, we have continued this great professional friendship, because one of the great shared beliefs we have is that no one in the venture community wins just by themselves. It takes a team, and we are committed to building a startup ecosystem right here in Texas, centered right here in Austin, that would elevate everyone. I think people that I see here, there are a lot of familiar faces, and I know I could say with confidence that you guys will be part of this. We're going to be reading newspaper headlines about some of the folks on this very Zoom call. So I'm super honored to share a few thoughts. And for those of you who know me a little better, you know that talking from big stages is not my thing necessarily. I do it when I must. My thing is more fire chat or with a glass of wine. So to me, like today, actually, unfortunately, not a glass of wine. Like my big thing here is an icebreaker, is this ginormous bottle of water that my doctor had prescribed. So I'm trying to be good with that. Actually, for a separate conversation, a really great health hack. But happy to talk today to you a little bit about my thoughts, our team thoughts about what it takes to start up in the time of coronavirus. So I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay, Martin. I hope it will allow me to do that. All right,
Yeah, you should have screen sharing functionality.
Yep.
Perfect.
Let's see. Let's do that. And let's go into my full screen mode. Slideshow. Let's go and share with you some slides. So guys, see that. So startupping in crises. That is what we're going to chat about today. Hold on. It's sorry. It's going to give you a preview of my presentation. I just wanted to share this phenomenal little unicorn that I hope all of us are building. I hope you guys could see him. That is undergoing some quite unusual times, as all of us here. We're here to build those unicorns, and I want to share a few thoughts on why this is different, but not so much different from what every startup founder is going through today and every single day of his or her life. So I'm gonna go to next slide. Next slide is here. And one of the things that we have observed, like a lot of the venture capitalists that a lot of people that have, sorry, like my thing is not cooperating here. I'm gonna stick here for a second. I love this quote from Roger Crawford. Being challenged in life is inevitable. Being defeated by this is optional. And in mentoring a lot of startups, what we have observed is you guys already take a lot of the things that are needed to succeed in this crisis. And for many of the founders, I'm going to talk about some of the examples that the companies that we face with have done. While the shutdown and the whole stop of the economy have been completely shocking, after some pause, after applying some of the thoughts and tools I'm going to mention in this dialogue, people have pivoted and people have survived in this very dire circumstances. And I would dare to say, I really agree with Wogby that their companies are going to be stronger for having survived that than for having not survived that. First of all, let me just say that all of you guys who are starting your companies in this time of crisis, you are in good company. If you look at these logos of the companies, you will recognize without a shadow of a doubt, they share one thing and one thing in common. Every single one of them had been started during a severe economic downturn. So it is not only possible, it is absolutely doable. And these guys have proven that. So whenever you are in doubt about, can I do this? Is it possible? Like, what about this crisis? Some of the best examples that came up from the venture industry have started in the time of crisis. I'm gonna lead with when you are, I'm sure that's probably also the case for, like I'm not managing this one well today. From Paul and Martina and Elisa and the whole team at FI, we learn as much from the folks that go through our program as they learn from us. So looking at you smiling is one of the nicest and most badass women I've ever met. Her name is Marisa Limshaco. She's a Sputnik graduate. She's also a West Point alumni. She was an officer in U.S. Army. She had commanded 100 men and women in Iraq. I don't want to show my face though. She is just this phenomenal human being. When this crisis started, she wrote an excellent piece on Medium on in military, people are trained to deal with VUCA. Thank you for this great term, Wogby, again. Like, how do you, when everything is being thrown at you, how do you absorb this? And the excellent piece from her where we have to think about, okay, this has happened, nothing we could do about this. How do we manage our emotions? What are the problems we have to solve for? And most importantly, once you've managed that, how you overcome the new possibilities? How do you look at the new possibilities that are out there? Great piece, like I highly recommend it, but most importantly, remember that every one of you had probably been through a tougher circumstances in life than what we are facing right now. And you have survived that and you have exhibited bravery. The sheer fact that you didn't give up, the fact that you didn't run, that you've enrolled into a fight, it tells me, and it will tell the world, that you have what it takes to succeed. Life might throw some bumps at you. You're going to take it and you're going to make something beautiful out of it. So this one is interesting. Before you could take on the world, before you could succeed, the most important thing is how do you manage? It is normal, it is human to have fear. Absolutely, you've just have quit your job, you dove head on to be an entrepreneur. You might have co-founders, employees, your family that depends upon. fear, anxiety about what have you done, how do we manage that, is completely normal. I am a huge fan. I hope there are some of you here that love Harry Potter. Huge fan of it, and like so many lessons that my kids and I have discussed. But this is an interesting one. If for those of you who have watched the movies or read the book, do you remember when the boggart is showing up? There is an active plan that is really intense fear. How do you actively manage that when you have a strategy and you have a really bright memory, a really bright emotion to overcome that? You could manage your fear. And all of you, I know that you're gonna share your ups and downs in the next few months. This world will continue to be uncertain for at least another 6 to 12 months. That is my personal prediction. And you're gonna face the fear and anxiety. One of the strong suggestions that I have for you is figure out what it takes for you to calm, to center, to get to a place where you could take on the world, because I know every single one of you takes what it has what it takes, but I also know that you're all going to get human, and having this active plan for how do you combat the difficult emotions will help you present your best face when you talk to your team, when you talk to your customers, and when you talk to your investors. Now, one thing I often share, like when we were discussing, a lot of our founders were shell-shocked when this whole thing happened. And my business partner, Joe, and I would like to remind people that as a startup founders, you are already an elite athlete. You are already head and shoulders above most people that just show up for their paycheck. You have chosen a difficult path. You have chosen mission impossible. So even though it might seem difficult in this crisis, my prediction is that entrepreneurs will survive stronger, because mission impossible was your day-to-day reality even before COVID had fit. So I like to joke, my business partner, Joe Merrill, is an avid runner. I could barely puff through 1 mile. So if both of us were to run in a hot and humid environment, I guarantee you that he would be in a much better shape than I would. The same carries for you. While all of this had been thrown at you, by virtue of what you have been practicing and by virtue of what you have been doing and running your own companies, you have handled difficult. Impossible is your probably middle name. You know how to handle that. So give yourself credit. You already know better than most how to deal with what's coming at you. But this is, and at Sputnik, if you were to come to Sputnik, in addition to being very rigorous with our curriculum and how to start up, and all of that is written up well, one of the things that we talk a lot in our classroom and privately with our founders is your mental toughness, because it's not the company that wins, it's the people who lead that company. It's you, the founders, who are choosing to be excellent, who are choosing to be better every single moment, who are choosing to be of service to your customer and your mission. And that is a very difficult task. In this time of crisis, if you were to poll most successful people, there is one thing they have in common, which is they have ironclad routines that elevate you to be at your top game. And you have to meditate every day, you have to move every day, and then you will be ready to meet your challenge. And now that you've handled your mental game, one of the things that Joe and I like to recommend is, like, there is always a specific trick, but let's go back to basics. Consumer surplus. When you're starting a new company, you have to produce something that is of so much more value in terms of the money saved, the time saved, the opportunity gained to your customer. So when you do your startup in crisis, this isn't like, there is no more time for fluff. You have to be so crystal clear about what is your value proposition and why it is valuable, and how do you drop all of the barriers for your customers to try your product. And by the way, this is the time that they will, because your corporate customer might have been too busy or too important to try a new upstart that might save them some money. But now that they are in this tremendous pressure to cut costs and innovate and work from home, I'm seeing a lot more pretty lofty companies trying upstart products. What is your minimal viable product? I love this concept, minimal viable product. At Sputnik, we talk a lot about this because all three words are insanely important. It has to be a product, but every product will evolve and it has to be viable. So what is it for you? How are you evolving that concept together with your customers? Super important, going back to basics. Is it easy for people to try your product? Go back to the things that you offer and say, how could this be simpler? Every single, no matter, even if your customers are liking it, taking a critical eye to, is it easy for them to enroll? Is it easy for them to recommend your product? Is it easy for them to gift your product? Having those things like super important. 1,000 True Fans is another one of my back to basics, super favorite. A lot of you either love music or come from music background. This is where the startup founders truly have to borrow from the music fans, which is instead of being liked so by millions of people, which is where you have to be probably at the end, you're gonna have to have millions of consumers. How about 1,000 True Fans? Well, think about this. If you have 1,000 people that really love what you do, and they love you enough to buy $100 worth of your product a year, which is in about $8 of your product a month, 2 Starbucks lattes, you already have $1 million in revenue in your business. And if you do that, moreover, those people would recommend you to their friends, they might buy something, and that's how the world knowing about how you're changing this that's how the world will know about you. Many other tricks, and I know the curriculum is excellent, I know you already covered them. So when in doubt, like, what are your top 10 startup basics that you would love to do? Because they're always true. And in time of the crisis, when you might not have all of the great venture funding that you might look and would want to have, this is a great way to figure out, how do I get my existing clients to refer me? This is a great time because there is an insane equalizer between you and pretty much anyone out there, because we are all living through the same reality. So you might have not had much in common with an investor living in New York, but right now, regardless of where you're coming from, both you and her were locked down and probably had to deal with hungry kids and a lot of the sameness and staring at Zoom. There is a lot to share. That is a basis for starting relationships. This one is a biggie. And it is a biggie because companies break for many reasons. And one of the least spoken one is when the founders break up. In the startup world, we have not studied this as much, but there is a lot of research in the science of marriage about it takes work to be in a long-term relationship. It absolutely takes work, it takes growth, it takes communication. It just does not happen because you like each other. And in any crisis, whatever cracks you might have had in those relationships really become a lot more evident. There is a reason why there are a lot more divorces and also a lot more marriages that are happening in the time of divorce. In time of crisis. And what is important is, let's borrow from the universe of advice that is offered to couples, because the very same things will be applicable to the relationship between you and your co-founder. I love John Gottman Marriage Institute. There is a phenomenal TED Talk. He gets to be very practical with a few things because he could predict whether the couple will stay together or divorce, watching on mute 20 seconds of them arguing about something that is important to them. And as you go and dissect what is it they recommend, business relationship with your co-founder is just as intense as your private relationship with your partner, and it takes just as much work and just as much dedication. And investing in this right now is a great way to give your startup a great runway and a great foundation for the future. It's a great time to talk about culture. It's a great time to talk about what's important to you, because more than ever, you will need missionaries, not mercenaries, helping you start up. That to me is a very important one, because often we have barriers in our head that are there, and you may or may not realize that. And let me talk to you like a shame on me, because when the first time COVID started, I thought, wow, I had quite a few founders. I'm really fortunate to back a few founders who are not only phenomenal businesswomen, but they are mothers of young children. And for those of you who have young kids at home, imagine going through the 12 to 15-hour startup grind. And then on top of that, you have to become a teacher to your 3 or 5-year-old, and they do not sit on Zoom. And you have to feed them and you have to educate them. And all of that happens in the same small space. I thought, for sure, these women will slow down. Boy, was I wrong. The ladies you're looking at probably made the most astounding progress. They moved their companies forward. They actually took advantage of this opportunity. And in looking back, as a woman, as a mother, why would I make that assumption? Because they didn't. They didn't build those barriers. They found a way to focus. They found a way to really zoom in on what is important, and they found a way to make their companies more successful. I do not know what barriers, because often when in times of crisis, we make assumptions that are more true in our head than they are true in reality about what is and is not possible. For instance, I've heard no one is investing in this time. That is not true. Many, many people are investing. Sputnik is investing. There are a lot of people in Austin that are still writing checks. Sure, it has become a lot more difficult, but absolutely is possible. Moreover, if you're talking to family offices, as you're talking to a lot of angel investments, often, particularly here in Texas, people would say, why would I need to invest in startup? I'm just going to do really well investing in real estate. This recent crisis might have offered people a few reasons why you would diversify. There is always someone that you could find out there that will support your ideas. Instead of thinking of like what used to be geographically confined, right now, just as easy or just as difficult for you to meet with an angel that is Texas-based as it is for you to meet with angel that is based out of California. And so why not establish that relationship right now? The geographical boundaries have dropped. So my ask is, the world will throw a lot of limitations at you. As a startup founder, you are a trailblazer. The first mental discipline that I would love for you to develop, and I think this will help you in crisis, is do not build those barriers in your own head. And crisis is also an opportunity to rethink what is possible. I don't know, hold on a second, let me just go back to that photograph because it merits a little bit more of a dwelling on it. This is a bit of a personal story. And what you see here is my husband and I, and we are looking at you some 25 plus years ago. You see, like, I don't know whether you see, this is taken right in front of our school in Moscow. I am 21, he's 23. We see, like, that's like, we did not have a lot of luxury. You see this graffiti ridden thing, like this rickety door on the background. Similar to many of you, I've lived through many crises. And like the first thinking to what happened with us is we have been elite physicists all our lives. We have trained, we have gotten to the best physics and math school in the former Soviet Union. We knew the scientific institute that already wanted to offer us a job. That was when I was 20. By the time I became 21, the whole concept, the Soviet Union had been broken down. There were no more jobs for scientists. Labs were not getting any electricity. So if you thought about this lofty experiment, you would be fooled to do that. And it seemed like the whole world was crashing. little did I know that crushing of those opportunities, those walls, actually let us cross the borders, come to United States, become students here, and build our life in my most beloved adopted country, and experience all of this. Crisis is a chance for you to rebuild. Crisis is a chance for you to reset. It's a chance for you to see what's possible. Over the drink, or maybe later here today, I could give you numerous examples of startup founders who are just like yourself, that not only did not slow down, they kept growing, because they figured out, this is why I exist. This is why what I make is necessary and possible. And this is what I could do to my product so that I could talk to my customers right now. I really would love for you to leave with the thought that rethinking what is possible and delivering on that is your biggest superpower. And I know that you will succeed in this, because you are extremely well trained. You have the cohort of phenomenal Founders Institute alumni. You have the whole Texas startups community to lean upon. And I know you will do that. So let me end with my favorite quote from one of my favorite books of all times. You're braver than you believe. You're stronger than you seem, and you're smarter than you think. I'm so honored to talk to you on your graduation day, and I really want to congratulate you, Cohort 5. You are an incredible group of people, and the world will hear about you. We will read newspaper headlines about you. I'm confident you will do phenomenal things. And if at Sputnik we could support you, please apply. Just specifically for this reason, we extended our deadline just a few more days. Even if you don't apply, as friends of FI, we are always around to take a call, to answer an email, to provide some introduction. It takes more than one person. It takes more than one organization. I'm so proud of what you've accomplished. I cannot wait to see how you will live this next chapter of your life. Congratulations.
You can hear my claps. Give me some emoji claps, ladies and gentlemen. Some thumbs ups. Thank you, Oksana. It is so good to see you.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
Oksana, I was organizing a South by event with Oksana on that panel. I think we can revisit it. I want
Yes.
to. I think we might have something in the summer, because if anything, it's even more relevant, and I think there's even more depth to that conversation. But thank you again. It's an honor to have you with us.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege, and such an incredible group of people to see, like, so great too. Thank you for those of you who have opened their videos, and we truly, truly mean it. We always love to help founders, and Joe and I always find time. We may not find at that very moment, but within a month, we always find time to talk to FI founders. So if we could be helpful, please reach out.
Thank you again, Oksana. Really, thank you to everybody over at the Sputnik team. y'all kill it. Y'all have some of the nicest, sweetest, the smartest people in your organization. We love, having joint events together and all the fun things that I know we'll be able to do again at some point.
Those events are missed, because when FI and Sputnik get together, the best events in town happen.
A little bit. We'll have another one soon at some point in time. But that said, thank you again to our speakers. Thank you to Wobie for some compelling inspiration. Thank you to Oksana for these nuggets of wisdom and motivation to pursue what is necessary, what we need to do, building the future that we want to see for everyone. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, down to the main show tonight. It's time for the pitches. It's time for every single one of you, and thank you for joining us. If you're joining us right now, it's the FI Cohort 5 Spring Cohort graduation event. We have 5 founders that I'm so excited for you to all meet. They're going to spend a little bit of time introducing their companies, maybe share a little bit of time about their experience with FI over the last 14 weeks. But I'm going to kick it over to my fantastic local team. And we're going to start with Paul O'Brien, who's going to introduce our first couple of founders. Paul, take it away, my friend.
How do I follow those two fantastic perspectives about what we're going through? Thank you both for joining us tonight. Martine, thanks again. leading the way in what we're doing here. I had some thoughts prepared to share. I'm going to introduce two of our founders tonight, and then I'll turn it over to Harold to do the same, and Elisa will wrap us up tonight. I had some thoughts prepared, and it was when my mom walked into the room. Yes, my mom, I'm in Arizona. When she walked into the room and handed me a coffee cup, and I read what was on the coffee cup, and as some of you know, I live on caffeine like it's, I don't know, crack, I suppose. She handed me a coffee cup here at 7 o'clock at night. And I read on it, it says, it might be backwards, so I'll read it. It says, peace, love, joy, and family. And as I listened to our two speakers tonight, and I was thinking about our founders and mentors and directors, and I was just thinking about this program in general. That was the message that struck me as most important, not because of what we're going through in the economy or the world or what we're going through with the virus, frankly, but because that's what all of this is. I shared a quick chat with Wobie that I moved here about the same time. I moved to Austin rather about the same time that he did from California. So it's been what, 11, 12 years? And as I was looking at some of our guests in the room, Dana and Brian Massey, it dawned on me that I've known some of you for that long, that 10 years ago at CoSpace, which is a co-working space that will live on in infamy in Austin, is one of the early efforts to build a startup community, where I met some of you. And here we all are, still showing up, still making a difference, because this is about love and family and doing it together. And you heard Oksana and Wobie and Martine, right? We keep showing up for each other. And I'm more excited about tonight in particular, because as Martine mentioned, and some of you know well, we have folks here tonight from Dallas and San Antonio and Houston that Texas in just the last few years has really started to develop and mature as an ecosystem and a community. That founders tonight, congratulations, because we will keep showing up for you, and I'm excited to say and be proud to know you that you will keep showing up for all of us, because that's what we do. That is what it's all about. That in 10 more years or 15 years, we're going to do this again as another graduation or another meetup or another happy hour. Another opportunity to celebrate the founders who take these kind of risks and make these sacrifices to try to make a difference in the world. So kudos to you, kudos to all of you for showing up. I'm so honored to know you guys, and thank you for being here with us tonight. I think that's enough for my part. I want to introduce Don Ballman tonight, and I want to introduce Tracy Ambrico tonight. And I'm going to introduce them both so that we can just jump right into some of the thoughts that they wanted to share about what they've been working on. And after that, we'll turn it over to Harold to introduce a couple more founders. I've had the distinct pleasure of getting to know both of these founders, and actually that too is why this cup struck me, because as I've gotten to know them, they've talked about with me family and sacrifice and doing what they love, and how much this work means to them and to all of us. Don shared with me a story about why he's doing this, that like many of us, he had a father who worked constantly just to care for his family, put his family first. And when he mentioned that his father passed away at 19, that hurt emotionally. That rang for me a little bit in the sense of how we work so hard, that we make those kind of sacrifices that cause us to perhaps miss out on some of the things that are important to us. His father passed away when he was young, but because of that, he instilled some of the great inspirations that drive us to do what we do. And we talked a bit about Simon Sinek, and my favorite perspective from Sinek, start with why, but Don reminded me of how leaders eat last, being a perspective that he learned from his father, and a perspective that's driving him in his work today, that you put people first, that you make sure your team and your others, your family feels safe. And feeling safe probably best exemplifies the work that he's doing today. So he's going to introduce iOpen Innovations tonight, and his work to do that has a lot to do with travel. So I found a little irony in the fact that I'm in Arizona, and he loves to travel, and wanted to share that If and when we have a chance to meet and connect with Don, the best way to do that is perhaps on the road somewhere, up in the mountains or at the beach where y'all can get together and say hello. And then I want to introduce Tracy as well with some of the same passion and emotion, because Tracy got me excited because she's the type of person who challenges the norm, challenges the status quo. And that too is what it takes, right? That's what it takes to change the world, to look at the way things are and say, it doesn't have to be that way. We could do things differently. She when she was a kid, shared a story with me about how she desperately wanted to ride horses, but her family couldn't afford it. And so what did she do? She walked down to the stables nearby and asked if she could get a job. and lo and behold, they gave her a job, and she got the opportunity to learn to ride. And I found that remarkable because I'm a father, and she got that job not just when she was a kid, but when she was 9 years old. When she was 9 years old, she was working in a stable so she could learn to ride. And those horses, what we talked about is how those horses were her family, and they taught her to be strong and resilient and be considerate of others and care for others. And that it takes teamwork and love to figure out how to make a difference. And so out of that was born Barn Hero, which she's going to share with you tonight, this network and this passion for farms. And the work that our agriculture and farming community does for us, and how she's looking at ways to connect those folks and make a difference for us, and the fact that so many people have a passion for animals and livestock. And so as you get to know Tracy, think too about how you can connect with her offline. Obviously, the best way to do that is probably to go along with her on a ride. Find her at one of those stables and ask for a horse that she may know well and take you out. Without further ado, let me introduce Don Ballman first. Don, thanks for joining us tonight and sharing a few thoughts about what you're doing. And when you wrap up, we'll transfer right over to Tracy so she can do the same. All right?
Very good. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Paul, so much. Wow, what an honor and privilege to be here. And I just want to show just a couple minutes about our vision and what we're doing. This was born literally out of a pivot. About 2 years ago, a friend of ours walked into our office and she says, your vision is very cool, but really truly what I want as a guest at a hotel is just to know that I'm safe when I open that door. So with that, now we head into this season of uncertainty. So what is really the question I want to ask is, what is the most important thing that a hotel can do right now? It is to assure the guests that they're safe and secure, and that alone will bring those guests back to the hotel. So what we're doing is building a product. It's called SafeStay 365, and that combines sensors with cloud-based platform to detect in-room presence. Think of it like this. It's a seatbelt for your hotel stay. You probably rarely will use it, but when you really, really need it, it's right there, and you really do use it. So how it works is the guests check in. Upon check-in, they get this service that they can opt into on their phone with no download required, and it just works. We will make money through subscriptions to hotels. And the hotels that really deliver this to their guests are those luxury hotels, those upper upscale hotels that want to really deliver much more than just a room to the guests. They want to deliver that personalized experience, and we can do that. We can help them. Now, we have started traction. That's on us, and we're paying for that. Beautiful boutique hotel in Texas. And that is really to help us position ourselves in the market. I believe that it is time right now to take a step of faith in this market. And by doing that, by taking those steps of faith, we will position ourselves when the hotels return. One of our advisors is Ted Tang, an icon, an absolute icon in the hotel industry. And he told me a few weeks ago, you know, hotels are not going to go away. We're going to figure this out. Humans are resilient. And travel and hotels are coming back. So with just 10 full service luxury hotels, we will generate an average of $3 million a year in recurring revenue. So we're ready for that. We're positioning for that right now. We're looking for folks who know great hotels and hotel owners so that we can prove the value of the product and guest demand. And believe me, we've done surveys, 98% say guests are waiting for the product like this because they need that awareness, they need the safety, and they need that security when they stay. I'm Don Ballman. If you're interested at all, I'd love to talk with you more. Thank you for the time and the opportunity. All the best.
Way to go, Don. That was good. I had to tell you out loud because I hadn't seen you in a couple of weeks, and that was awesome. I'm so proud of you.
No, I'm glad you did, Dana. How are you? Don, nicely done. Nicely done. Thank you very much, Don. And a reminder, as Martine shared, we're going to break out after our panels tonight, so everybody's going to have a chance to get to know Don a little bit one-on-one, as well as the rest of our founders. And then, of course, after that, we'll socialize a bit more as a group. So thanks again, Don. Good to see you tonight again. Cheers. Tracy, you doing well?
I'm here, man.
I love the chuckle. Good to see you. Say hello and take it away.
All right. And hello to all of you. I'm Tracy Ambrico, co-founder of Barn Hero. We're horse people, raised in farm country, and we understand the farm labor shortage on a personal level because we live it every day. Whether you raise horses, cattle, or crops, you're dependent on both for full-time and seasonal employment and services. Farmers normally try to find workers through classified ads, word of mouth, and labor contractors. It doesn't work. It didn't work before. It doesn't work now. And that's because it's like looking for a needle in multiple haystacks. But what if there was a place where the people who perform these jobs are already gathering as a community? Barn Hero's vision is a socially engaging professional network for farm labor services and professionals. We're all familiar with LinkedIn. They started by building a network connecting job seekers with employers on a social platform. It's since grown into a monster. And LinkedIn is very effective for some professionals, but not for farming and not for livestock people. It's just not a destination for the everyday workers in agriculture. Our stakeholders have smartphones and they use social, but LinkedIn isn't built with their lifestyle in mind. And that's where Barn Hero comes in. We can create content around potential jobs, employers, and tricks of the trade. We can focus on building a social network from scratch that targets the workers in the livestock and farm niche. Livestock and farming is directly connected to 11% of US jobs. Our total addressable market is around 22 million people. And how do we make money? We'll offer premium recruiting tools, sponsored content, job boards, and premium subscriptions. Our customer is the employer, and we'll use network effects to create a broad pool of potential employees for them to recruit from. Now, to pull it off, we're going to need programmers, advisors, investors, a couple of miracles, a new economy, whatever. We'll need all of that. But the people who put the food on our tables deserve their own professional network, and Barn Hero can build it for them. If you'd like to learn more, give us a shout, and I thank you for your time.
Brilliant. Well done. Well done, and good to see you, Tracy.
Thank you.
The hardest part about doing this, everybody, as Martine shared, is that it's virtual. And so usually my point about family is so true, because usually we're spending time together, beating each other up, as y'all know. And this group gets so intimate in the span of 12 weeks that it's so wonderful to see everybody. just through these Zoom calls week after week. So thank you all, and well done, Tracy. Again, we'll break out afterward. Without further ado, perhaps no better way to help characterize the fact that we keep growing as a family than the opportunity to introduce Harold, because Martine and Elisa and I have been at this for a couple of years, but as Martine mentioned, Harold joined us this year and truly has quickly become a part of our family in a way that I have so much gratitude for the opportunity to get to know him and be involved in the work he's doing and the work he's doing with us to make a difference for founders and throughout Texas. So thank you, Harold, for joining us in Founder Institute, and thank you again, everybody. Thanks to Tracy and Don for letting me introduce the two of you, mentors, fellow directors. Thanks again as well for joining us tonight. My last thought is about family. I'm particularly honored to point out that Miss Donnie is here with us tonight. Hopefully we'll get to hear a little bit more about who Miss Donnie is and say hello. Without further ado, Harold, let me pass the mic over to you so you can take it from here.
I appreciate it. Thank you all so much. I appreciate everyone for joining us today to help us celebrate these grads. The program is intense. I can say that as a person who went through the program back in 2015 as the first cohort in Greenville, South Carolina, the only cohort in the Carolinas. And so to have gone through what this program really puts you through as a founder, I think it really prepares people for that next step. Oftentimes, whether it's Shark Tank or some other external motivation, people want to sign up for the crazy life that is a startup founder, which in a lot of cases requires long nights and early mornings and challenging conversations with significant others and sacrifices around family. And that none of that stuff actually has to deal with like the actual dollars you need to bring in to make payroll or satisfy investor returns. And so I really appreciate that everyone who did this program stuck through it, took feedback really, really creatively and were constructive about how they received it and how they applied it to their business. So that is huge. I think that it is impossible to build a great company in a vacuum. And so as the CEO, as the founder, it is important not only make sure that you are getting feedback, but you are deciphering what feedback is good, what feedback is actually useful, and what of it you need to either table or discard altogether. So I'm really excited to be a part of this accelerator program or incubator program, depending on who you ask. I think that we've got great representation across the directors, great representation across the mentors. We want to continue to create opportunities for more women, people of color, the LGBTQ community, veterans, and lots of different segments of the entrepreneur population. So for those of you who are listening to what we're doing tonight for the first time, or know a founder that's working on something but could use a little bit of help in some areas that may not be their strengths, that's exactly what Founder Institute is for. We are looking for the next cohort, and I'm sure that Martine will have the call to action at some point, so I won't steal too much of his thunder, and I'll kind of get right into introducing Oleg and Joseph. So first, I'm going to introduce Oleg. Oleg will present for a couple of minutes, and then I'll introduce Joseph. So first off, Oleg's one of the smartest people I've ever talked to. We spent several office hours together. What you'll hear very quickly is that he doesn't necessarily have that Austin, Texas accent like myself. Just kidding. I'm just here from South Carolina. But he got his bachelor's degree and his master's degree from the Bauman Moscow Status Technical School, Technical University in Russia. Graduated with honors, as you would imagine. And then wasn't done, ended up getting his PhD in systemic analysis, control, and treatment of information, also in Russia. And so I think about like what it takes to be that educated as an engineer or as a practitioner in that specific field, and then deciding you want to chuck it all away and work on entrepreneurship. And so it's really interesting to know that Oleg spent, almost over 20 years in the space, wearing lots of different hats in startup. IBM acquired his third startup, and when they decided they were going to manage a startup or an AI incubator within the company, he really stuck through it and has been incredibly talented and resourceful. He earned his first money from high school creating a timetable optimization software to run payments, and was hired part-time by the library as a librarian, and because there wasn't a software engineer position. So I think that being resourceful is something that not only we see in immigrants, but in the best founders of all backgrounds. And so I'm really glad that Oleg is here and is willing to share some of what he is up to. So Oleg, I will turn it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you. Just give me a sec. It's all set now. Well, I have to express my deepest gratitude to Founder Institute. I entered with an idea and technology and probably short the hairs. I'm exiting with a running business and new friends. So let's talk about business. Our team, I'm a founder of Gold Profit. Our team has decades of experience in building optimization solutions for large retailers like Target or Best Buy. What we figured out is how to make enterprise-grade intelligence available for the middle segment, how to scale it down but keep quality. And this is our advantage. And middle segment is it's even bigger, and it's a wasteland. It's a 1 billion market opportunity which is just ignored by key vendors like IBM or Oracle, and I was one of them. We started with price optimization, and we plan to extend it to promotions and assortment planning, inventory management. 8 out of 10 retailers, we run interviews, they still use spreadsheets and gut feelings in their pricing strategies. What we do, we recommend optimal prices for every product at every store. It just cannot be handled in a manual way. The value is simple and it's proven. Using AI pricing, we can increase profit by up to 10%. And it's a huge number for retail. It's the real money, so needed. We started just 3 months ago. And now we have a team, we have a product. We signed a pilot with Azbuk of Kusa. It's a kind of Whole Foods in Russia, and yeah. You can see my background. This contract alone gives us more than $100,000 a year in recurrent subscription. And also it's a really good reference client for us. So we are looking for industry advisors to refine our product. And we are looking for introduction to investors to run it at scale. Thank you for your attention. Join us.
There you go, the call to action. Thank you so much, Oleg. I appreciate it. Great presentation. And for those of you who have heard Oleg pitch before, you know that he's incredibly smart. And those of us that don't have, I always think it's interesting when people who have a different accent, we normally think it's the accent. It's like, no, there's some people who can hear people speaking different languages and process it really quickly. And so Oleg has done a great job of taking how he is able to communicate what he does and making sure people understand it. And so I think that you all who are nodding and have heard this presentation tonight have a good understanding of what Oleg is doing at Gold Profit, and please reach out to him and his team to learn more about how you can be part of their journey. So next, we've got Joseph Bell. Joseph and I have spent plenty of office hours together, and I think our journeys are pretty interesting, as his example and probably scenario through Founder Institute has been most like entrepreneurs who've had to deal with COVID-19, and that he's had to pivot, and he's been open-minded. I think that oftentimes when you look at founders who talk about pivoting, or the outsider that says, oh, you should just pivot, they think it's as simple as changing your website, your marketing materials. It's very difficult. You have to research the market. You have to understand your product. You have to figure out your value proposition. And all of that still needs to go into, do you know customers? Can you figure out a sustainable business model, and all of the things it takes to acquire them? And so though Joseph is graduating representing one company, I can say confidently that he has at least another business model in a completely different sector that he would be happy to share with you all for venture number 2 down the road. A little more background on him is that he's studying to be a biomedical engineer. I've had the fortune of having 2 of the engineers that I get to introduce. That is, that's well beyond my words and my languages, but these are 2 incredibly smart guys. Really believes in the transformative power of science and technology, specifically on how it improves humanity's condition. You think about the human condition in a lot of the things that we deal with from day to day. And I think it's really cool about what Joseph is building. So I'll let him tell you more about that. But one quick fun fact is that he is a classically trained composer and clarinetist. And so if he isn't presenting with a recording of him in the background, I think that that's a missed opportunity. But I will toss it over to Joseph to see what he gives us tonight. Joseph, all yours.
Thanks for that intro, Harold. So I just want to say at first, FI was a totally new experience for me. It was something that I was a bit hesitant to do because I did not come into it with anything, just an idea. And I didn't have the background in it. I didn't have much experience with this whole entrepreneurship business ecosystem. And so for me, I came to a point in my life shortly before I applied, and I decided that I wanted to make a difference in the world. I wanted to change things in a way that I thought would be better. And I felt like entrepreneurship is the way to do that. So I applied and I was accepted and I began to do the work. And several times through the process, I was filled with a lot of doubt of whether or not I should continue. And I had some conversations with mentors and my teammates, and they all encouraged me to go on. And that has meant a lot to me. I had some bad days before the sessions, and even when I went into some of the sessions, and by the end of it, I felt rejuvenated because of the people that were there. So I just wanted to say to everyone in this in the Austin group, thank you so much. It's meant a lot to me. So the average American spends around 11 or more hours a day staring at a computer screen while being bombarded with stimulating experiences designed to be addictive. As a society, we are paying a high price. 1 in 8 Americans suffer from tech addiction, and 90% of Gen Zers are struggling with loneliness and depression. This problem is not going away. My company, Medicines VR, is creating a mind-healthy digital environment. Through a combination of neuroscience-based software and special sensors in a VR headset, we can measure stress and use VR to adjust the user experience. Just as the environment and experience of practices like yoga can change a person's mental state, the immersive environment created through VR has the potential to change the digital experiences we all share. We're looking for introductions to behavioral psychologists to help us build this technology. And if you would like to know more, I'd love to have a chat with you. And please contact me with my information on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that. Big round of applause for Joseph and Oleg.
That's about a 180. Way to go.
Excellent.
Proud of you, Joseph. Sorry. Emotional.
No worries.
Love you, Dana.
Thank you, Oleg. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate it so much. Bringing it home will be Rashawn Brown, and to introduce him to his mother and to everyone listening is Elisa. So Elisa, I will toss it to you. And before that, I just want to say I appreciate you. You're awesome. And so thank you for being a partner in this. And the floor is yours, Elisa.
Thank you. So I've now been a director in this program for at least 3 cohorts, and it's been an absolute honor to be with all of these mentors and all of the incredible founders part of this process, as well as my fellow directors. I love you guys too. We see, especially since this started during COVID, we had more than 30 people start this cohort. And we end up weeding out, and we end up weeding about 2/3 of the cohort. And this happens regularly. It's because it's a lot of work. It's really difficult. And we push people really hard. And a lot of people think they want to be founders, but they're not ready to hear all of the critical feedback. FI has been doing this for a long time and has a ton of data. And I am also, I have a master's in social psychology. And one thing that I loved about this program that has stuck with me is that out of the big 5 personality traits, the one indicator of success is openness. Are you open to change? Are you open to opinions that don't jive with your opinion? Are you open to what customers are telling you? And this couldn't be more poignant than now. I always wanted to be an athlete, but I never have been that great at sports. Rashawn came into this program and gave a killer first pitch, and you knew that there was just a diamond in the rough. He has studied at one of the best sports management schools. This guy is ready to dig in and make change. He's open to every piece of negative feedback that you give him and wants to learn. In the first couple of weeks, I sat down with him and I said, you have a lot of potential, but I want you to think bigger. I want you to look further. And I told him about some of these marketing analytics data plays that he could make. And you know what he did? He found books. He went and learned. He did all of this work because he is so committed to what he's doing. And it really shows. He's made throughout this program new partnerships, is pitching new customers. I won't steal his thunder, but he is an amazing human being. And I am so, so honored to introduce him to all of you as our final graduate for our 5th cohort. Rashawn Brown, you're incredible.
Thank you, Elisa. I really appreciate it. But before I get started, I definitely want to, thank the mentors, because me as a first-time entrepreneur, just having access to you all, week after week, you guys give people like me the confidence to keep going. And that's one of the things that really came into play for me, as I also have a full-time job. So that was a big thing for me. So thank you for believing in me and helping me make it this far. And as Paul alluded to, my mom is on the call. She's in the Zoom. Hi, Mom. She supported me, throughout everything as a single mom. So it is pretty awesome to have her here, as she's always stuck with me. About 2 years ago, when I graduated with my master's, I moved here, accepted a job with Texas A&M Athletics. Lo and behold, 6 months later, she moved to Texas as well. So I'm happy to have her here.
She should be super proud. You're an exceptional young man, and you have an exceptional future as an entrepreneur. So congratulations, Mama. Give her a big round of applause. Congratulations, Mom.
She supported me and throughout the grad program where I had the idea of my application, which has been pulling and stuck on my heart, which I want to see it through more than success, more than money. for me is more than seeing something through that I started that I believe God placed on my heart to make an impact in the industry in which I work. So 92% of the world's population uses emojis. Emojis are known as the body language of the digital age. And 62% of emoji users wish they had more variety. This includes passionate college sports fans who do not have emojis to identify with their school. The problem lied in the barrier that collegiate licensing creates. My company, College Emojis, has created the first college emoji keyboard through a licensing partnership with Two Thumbs Entertainment. Fans pay an annual fee, with schools receiving a royalty. For a passionate college fan, this is a no-brainer impulse buy. As you can see behind me, these are some of the things that some of my customers said when they first downloaded the application. Oh, sorry. So in a short trial run, we had over 5,000 downloads and rose to number 6 in the Apple App Store. We've also begun working with schools to create our second product in light of COVID, and COVID really heightened the importance of virtual socialization. So we've been able to turn our emojis into augmented reality filters, where Ohio State has become our first AR partner. Schools pay an annual fee and can sell sponsorship placement within the filter. Working in college athletics, as I said, I work for Texas A&M Athletics. I live and breathe the passionate bond between teams and their fans. The potential of tapping into millions of college sports fans is massive, and we're already working with 68 of the biggest brands in college athletics and have partnered with the only sports emoji companies on the market. As we grow, we will have the capabilities to focus on professional sports leagues as well. We seek introductions to tech partners with experience in font localization at Facebook and Twitter. Help us create a new digital language for your alma mater. Thank you.
Rashawn, that was awesome. That was awesome, as expected.
Yeah, I was trying to play with my backgrounds a little bit to give it a little story. That's why I paused a little bit.
Yeah, great. It looks great. You did well as the weatherman. Well, thank you so much to all of our graduates. Thank you so much to our speakers. I'm going to kick it back to Martine and let him close this thing out.
All right, thank you, Elisa. One more time for every pitch that you heard this evening, as well as all of our directors. Give me the emoji claps. No college emojis. We don't have them on Zoom, but soon, maybe soon. Well done, founders. Well done.